Hello, kia ora koutou. Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for joining today's session on media and information literacy. My name is Natasha Atajic and I'm the Schools Engagement Coordinator at the State Library of Queensland. I'm joining you from Meanjin, Brisbane, on the lands of the Yagara and Turrbal people. On behalf of NSLA, I pay my respects to the traditional custodians and kaitiaki of the many lands of which all of us here today live and work. We also welcome today's panelists, Karen Brandwood, Digital Learning Librarian, State Library of South Australia. Karen wants to pop her camera on and wave hello. And Jessica Knight, Senior Education Officer at the State Library of New South Wales, along with Dr. Kylie Stevenson, the Associate Investigator with the Centre for the Digital Child, who will present to you shortly. Before we kick off, just a few Zoom housekeeping instructions. To ask questions of the panelists, simply open the Q&A by clicking the icon at the bottom of your screen. To share thoughts or comments during the session, please use the chat function. Open the chat icon, select everyone or a specific panelist, type your comment, and then enter to send. The chat is being monitored, so if you encounter any technical issues such as sound, please put those into the chat. Any non-technical questions asked in the chat will be moved to the Q&A. Today, our focus is on the crucial role libraries can play in supporting media and information literacy skill development in high school students years 7 to 12. But before we get into lots of wonderful examples, I'm going to start by laying a bit of a foundation with some background and context for our discussion today. We'll look at what media and information literacy is, why it's a growing priority for libraries, and how the NSLA Learning Network arrived here today, leading the last of 3 webinars in our learning symposium. Earlier this year, the network gathered in Canberra to discuss how libraries can support the global need for media and information literacy, equipping citizens with the skills for informed critical thinking. These discussions sparked the idea for this webinar series focused on exploring ways libraries can foster media literacy in children, young people, and families. Here we all are outside the Museum of Australian Democracy. As media and information literacy becomes an increasingly important priority, our aim is to leverage the strengths of libraries to support the communities we serve. Today, by sharing current library programs for students in years 7 to 12, focused on building media and information literacies, we hope to inspire you to create or adopt similar initiatives to equip high school students, their teachers, and their families to navigate today's complex information landscape. So who is the NSLA Learning Network? We are comprised of representatives from all across Australasian state and territory libraries. As a collective, we focus on the development and delivery of programs that serve a wide range of audiences, including early learners, school-age students, and adults, which in every NSLA library looks different. A key part of our work is sharing our expertise and professional knowledge, as well as the projects that are benefiting our library communities, allowing us to learn, support, and adapt and adopt from each other. In our roles, we also serve as critical friends to multiliteracy and learning programs across the network. And finally, we support NSLA libraries in their growth as learning organisations by modelling and nurturing a learning culture. This is central to ensuring that libraries continue to be spaces of innovation, knowledge sharing, and lifelong learning. We recognise that for many of us, media and information literacy skill building may still be a new focus or consideration for programming, and quite possibly the driver for your registration here today. We are not experts on every approach for integrating media and information literacy into your spaces, nor can we cover every example of how NSLA libraries are working to support media and information literacy skill building for high school students. And we acknowledge that many of you joining us today may be further ahead in this space than we are or have capacity to showcase. And if that's the case, we'd love you to share your examples of the work you're doing in your spaces into the chat throughout today's session. But we are committed to sharing learning and growing together as we explore how libraries across Australia can best support media and information literacy development to foster informed critical thinkers. So, what is media and information literacy? This refers to the knowledge, attitudes, and skills needed to navigate today's complex information landscape. This includes assessing, evaluating, organizing, and using information ethically across different formats like print, digital, and recorded media. The goal is to empower individuals to engage critically with information and to use it in ways that promotes lifelong learning and informed citizenship. Courtney Rattray, the United Nations High Representative for the least developed countries, landlocked developing countries, and small island developing states, has a focus on sustainable development and media literacy in his portfolio. In an article published by the United Nations Chronicle, he outlined the following mandate for media and information literacy. This mandate highlights the critical role for media and information literacy and how it plays a part in shaping responsible and informed citizens in an increasingly complex digital world. As we reflect on this, consider how you might apply these principles to your own programs to not only educate, but also empower students in years 7 to 12 to responsibly engage with media, fostering a more informed and inclusive society. So, why is it important? Media and information literacy is a fundamental right that promotes lifelong learning and social inclusion, empowering individuals to navigate digital environments safely and critically. It addresses challenges like misinformation and hate speech, fostering thoughtful and informed citizens. It helps to combat truth decay by balancing fast with slow thinking that encourages curiosity and critical inquiry. And in today's information saturated world, algorithms often create echo chambers by reinforcing personal biases, leading to limited perspectives. Promoting media and information literacy is also a global priority as outlined in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals 4, quality education, and 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. It has become a key priority across all levels, with governments and organisations increasingly integrating it into school curricula, such as the new Australian Curriculum version 9.0 and other national frameworks. These efforts aim to equip students with the essential digital literacies and responsible media engagement skills that will help them to combat misinformation and foster informed citizenship. So, why libraries? Libraries have long supported media literacy by acting as community hubs for lifelong learning, as it is often said, from the cradle to the grave. We collaborate at global, national, and local levels to deliver media literacy programs that support digital citizenship and critical thinking. And we are guided by and provide input into policies and frameworks that benefit our audiences. Here are just a few frameworks, examples of the work being done at a global and national level, including the IFLA Media and Information Literacy Recommendations and the Our National Agenda for Change, prepared by the Australian Media Literacy Alliance, of which NSLA and ALIA are members of, and was further supported by a consultation report produced by ALIA, the Australian Library and Information Association, the national peak body for libraries in Australia. And we'll send links to these documents for you to explore further following the webinar series. Well, now that we've explored very succinctly and quickly the importance and the need and our role in building information literacy skills, it's time to address how to best implement programs and resources that build these skills effectively. The NSLA Learning Network reviewed a few different methodologies and frameworks when we were together in Canberra. We were looking for a good model for assessing and building media literacy skills in children and young people, and one that could help libraries craft programs that foster critical thinking and responsible media engagement. We decided collectively that a great starting point is Edith Cowan University's model for children's digital citizenship, which focuses on 4 key areas: attitude, ability, awareness, and access, also known as the 4A's framework, developed by Dr. Kylie Stevenson. Today, we are fortunate to have Kylie with us to provide an overview of the 4A framework and how libraries can use it to not only assess the capabilities of the audiences you might be engaging with, but also as a tool for self-reflection and personal development. Just first, a little intro to Dr. Stevenson. She is an associate investigator with the Centre for the Digital Child, an Australian Research Council funded centre of excellence focusing on research about children aged birth to 8 years and digital technology. She has been researching families' lived experience of technology since 2013. In 2022 and 2023, she led a digital child research project partnering with the Lego Group in Asia Pacific called Digital Safety and Citizenship Roundtables, conducting research with children and adult policymakers in India, Korea, and Australia. This resulted in 4 major reports and included the 4A framework. She has co-authored the book Digital Media Use in Early Childhood, Birth to 6, and is the co-editor of the Routledge Companion to Digital Media and Children and Digitizing Early Childhood. She currently works at Murdoch University in Perth, Western Australia, and she's with us today. And I now turn the time over to Kylie to share with you more about the 4A framework. Over to you, Kylie.
Thank you, Natasha. I've just taken us back. Right, so welcome everyone. Thanks for joining today. So I'm talking to you today about this project called Digital Safety and Citizenship Roundtables. I'll first just position digital citizenship. It's really a very broad umbrella term, and information and media literacy is one of the skill sets that sits within digital citizenship. There are many frameworks for digital citizenship, just as there are for information and media literacy. Some of the common ones, one is actually called Common Sense framework, DigiKids Asia Pacific, and the one we used was called the DQ framework for digital citizenship. But I'll very briefly take you through this project, which I conducted when I was at Edith Cowan University as a research fellow. I'm currently an associate investigator with the ARC Centre of Excellence for the Digital Child, which is an international network of scholars investigating the impact of the digital on children aged birth to 8. So we conducted this research in Korea, India, and Australia, and we conducted child roundtables across 3 age groups, 3 to 5, 6 to 9, and 10 to 13, and we gathered children's perspectives about their experiences of the digital world. We also spoke to adult stakeholders, so that's policymakers, educators, and industry about their perspectives of children's digital citizenship. We asked children to express their experiences in a number of different play-based ways. We used prompt cards to generate discussion. We had them draw their experience, and then they did a show and tell activity. And then we also asked the children to make things in brick play. And all age groups responded really well to those activities. So once we had conducted the roundtables, we analysed all of the research data. So that's past research, policy documents, the children's input, and the adult stakeholders' input. And one of the key outcomes of that synthesis are the 4A principles. And what these are ways to understand how we can support children's digital citizenship. So that might be stakeholders, educators, parents, etc. You can see the 4A's there, and I'll now go through each of those one by one. So the first A is ability. So what is that? Well, that's the digital skills children and families have, including behaving well online and thinking critically. How might we apply that, or how might we help? Well, one way is to create digital play spaces where families can play and learn together. And the Centre for the Digital Child currently has 3 children's technology spaces, and I'll share a link to those shortly. The next A is awareness. Now, what is that? That's knowing about information available that can help develop digital skills. How might we help to apply that? Well, one way is to create a funny series of videos that show where people can go to find help with all kinds of digital problems. Because one of the key findings was there's a lot of information out there, but people don't know how to find it. So that's one way to help with that. The next A is attitude. So, what is that? That's how people think about children's online activities and abilities. And as you can imagine, there's a great spread of attitudes. How might we help? Well, one way would be to appoint a digital officer to help students, teachers, and parents with all things digital. And the last A is access. So, what is that? That's things that affect children's and adults' online use of their education about their online use. How might we help with that? Well, we could facilitate a group of children who can talk to adults and other children about safely accessing the digital world. Now, we did have one final recommendation, and that's called a control tower for digital citizenship. And that phrase, a control tower, came from one of our policy stakeholders. What is that? It's a digital citizenship control tower where children and adults can make decisions together. How might that look in practice? Well, we could facilitate a group of adults and children representing key locales and or age groups coming together to help make decisions about things to do with children's digital citizenship. There were 4 key reports that come out of the project, which detail all of that synthesis that I discussed. The one I like to direct people to is this last one I've circled here, and I'll share a link to these in the chat shortly, because we actually translated all the findings for children and wrote a report for children. And that's that last one there, which actually details the 4 A's in a very simple and accessible way. The other way we communicated the 4 A's in a playful way is we translated these into something called a chatterbox. So that's one of those things that you will have seen children playing with often. And we put the 4 A's and the final control tower recommendation into this format, including some of those ways to apply them. We were originally only going to put it in the children's report, but actually we tested it at a conference and the adults loved it so much that it's now in the adult report as well. So that's all from me. I'm going to share a few links in the chat to some of this information, but you'll see I'll also include a link to me and you can contact me for further information. So back to Natasha, and thanks everyone.
Thanks, Kylie. Those recommendations you shared from the final report there, those final recommendations really do provide a great starting point in considering what we might be able to do with our programming. And I love the chatterbox. I'm definitely going to have to print that and give that a go post-webinar. We'll share those links with you, as Kylie has said, in the chat and in our follow-up email. If you have any questions specifically for Kylie about the framework or her work with children and families in this space, please pop them into the question and answer function. And I invite you to continue to reflect and share any comments or thoughts you might have regarding the 4 A's into the chat for Kylie to review as well. Now, with a frame for how we might approach incorporating media and information literacy skills into our programming, I'd like to introduce Karen and Jessica, who will be sharing examples of how our NSLA libraries are supporting high school age students, their teachers and their families to develop media and information literacies. I'm really looking forward to this because this is a key audience at the State Library of Queensland and can't wait to see what other examples we have to learn from. Please join me in welcoming Karen and Jessica.
Hi everyone, I'm Karen and I'm here with Jess, and we'd like to now share 3 examples for supporting secondary students to develop media and information literacies. So to begin, NSLA have e-resources that allow secondary school students to find trustworthy information. So now more than ever, in an increasingly complex world of information and fake news, national, state and territory libraries play a significant role in supporting students to become effective researchers who can draw on the knowledge of the past and the present to make informed decisions that shape their world in the future. NSLA libraries connect young people with information sources to develop essential skills in locating, selecting, and analysing, synthesising, and evaluating information. So NSLA libraries are trusted and welcoming destinations for lifelong learning, and through inclusive quality educational experiences for young people, they can form an ongoing relationship with their library. This develops an understanding of their libraries, its role in collecting, preserving, and making accessible historical and contemporary records and stories. Through collection discovery, young people can develop skills and capabilities to collect information from historical and contemporary resources and analyse patterns and changes over time, and critique perspectives and develop empathy, assist young people to become informed citizens. Last year in 2023, there was a report, Libraries and Media Information Literacy Education, that was by Sora Park, Barbara Walsh, Jing Su from the University of Canberra. These researchers identified that for schools and teachers, it was finding and identifying trustworthy sources and also staying safe online. Within the NSLA collections and online through our websites, we have e-resources and databases and also social media that provide young people with trusted sources and a high level of safety. So our 3 examples today that fall into the 4 A's include the NSLA e-resources. Also, NSLA have media and information literacy workshops, which they offer to this age group online and also on site. And as mentioned, there's also social media that is provided by NSLA libraries. So just to look at the first slide, we have e-resources. So all NSLA libraries have a range of e-resources that are available for use anywhere, anytime with a free membership. On the slide, you can see the range of interfaces to e-resources amongst various NSLA libraries. So the e-resources comprise of articles from scholarly journals, magazines, newspapers, e-books, encyclopedias, and much more. The benefits of e-resources are that they comprise of subscription databases that are very organised. The database searches allow you to search keywords for relevance. There is quality control of information. The articles are fact-checked by editors or peer-reviewed by academics for accuracy. Searching can be refined to allow you to limit your search to what you want. Everything you find in the databases provided has been published. Articles are well written, grammatically correct, and properly cited. I'd like you to think for a moment from your personal experience. Do you find these attributes reflected in the social media or search engines or the AI that you may be using in your daily life? A varied diet of information is a very good practice to combat mis and disinformation. It's good to pause, dig deeper, and see if you can verify evidence elsewhere. So a great way to vary the diet for young people is to access the NSLA e-resources. So the only caveat for these e-resources is that you must be a resident of the jurisdiction. So you can see they're well represented across national, state and territory libraries. So it's quite easy because you can join online, complete a registration, and you can receive a membership barcode by email. And so you can start engaging with the e-resources immediately. So on the top of the center of this slide, we have an example of an e-resource accessible at most NSLA libraries, and this is called Gale General OneFile. So there's a range of databases that you can access, but this is one that I've just isolated because it's one that's represented by all our libraries. So Gale OneFile, General OneFile, provides access to periodical and news information on a variety of topics, including the humanities, education, business science, current events, art, politics, economics, social science, law, healthcare, computers, technology, environmental issues, and general interest topics. So it's a great multidisciplinary resource. So it's just, you can see that one, if you look closely, it's just highlighted in red in the center. So there are a range of information evaluation tools that you can use when you're looking at the information that you're gathering. And if you came to the session yesterday, Mairead had a great evaluation tool for a younger age group called Party, and it's called the Party Test. And that means purpose, author, references, time, and you. But there are a range of evaluation tools for older students, and some of you may have heard of the CRAP test that's devised by Sarah Blakesley from the California State University. And so the CRAP test relates to currency, the timeliness of the information, R for relevance, is it useful for your needs? A, authority, who is the author? What are their credentials or expertise? A, again, for accurate, so the reliability, truthfulness and correctness of content. And P, purpose, the reason why this information exists. There are other ones as well. There is one called the SIFT method, and that was developed by a digital literacy expert in the United States, Mike Caulfield. And that acronym stands for STOP, investigate the source, find better coverage, trace quotes and media to the original context. So with these e-resources from NSLA, students can feel confident that they are finding trustworthy sources of information. So what I'd like you to do is at some point give it a go and try analysing the NSLA e-resources by using one of the information evaluation tools that have been developed for media and information literacy, and see how they come out using those tools. So the second example we'd like to look at is that the various NSLA libraries have on-site and online media and information literacy skills programs available. So you can see quite a range here that are available from the various states, national, state and territory libraries. So research has been identified for public libraries research has been identified, and particularly for public libraries, they want to work out how to best teach media literacy to the public and community. And this was a key idea that emerged from the 2023 Libraries and Media Literacy Education report that I referred to before by the people from the University of Canberra. So many libraries offer on-site or online research skills workshops, and these can often be facilitated by librarians and or educators to support information and media literacy. So such workshops can be a useful springboard for developing or adapting modules to teach media literacy to the community. These workshops are also particularly useful as many of the helpful resources explored can't simply be found by a search engine. So generally, many of these workshops develop skills in refining complex search queries to find relevant information, learn to navigate the extensive range of free e-resources and databases that I referred to in the previous slide, that you can get with a free membership. And also they like to look at looking at skills to develop the learners to become critical and creative thinkers. And they use some of the evaluation tools that we've mentioned, like the CRAP test or the SIFT method. So accessibility to such workshops is no longer limited to the metro areas with on-site attendance. Rather, regional and remote areas have full accessibility through the online workshop engagement. Also, some NSLA libraries have developed on-demand videos for research or to find out about the stories that are held within the NSLA collections. And they're great examples of how to conduct research to find reliable and authoritative information, or using the collection to find new stories about the past to inform the future. It's important that these workshops aren't just for students. For example, the National Library of New Zealand has released a professional development program for 2025. And one of the 6 key pathways is that the programs include guidance for school library teams and teachers to support media and information literacy skills in the school community.
Now, on the screen, you'll see some examples of the information literacy programs on offer across the NSLA network for schools, and we'll speak to some of them now. So while each program is managed independently by their own institution and specific to that library, all of these sessions are looking at locating authoritative and credible information sources, developing online strategies, strengthening research skills, and developing investigation skills to support that critical inquiry and evidence-based argument. So keep an ear out for your state. State Library of South Australia has free online 60 minutes for students in Year 10 to 12. State Library of New South Wales has online and on-site 60 minutes for Year 11 and Year 12. State Library of Western Australia has a 1-hour workshop for students there, Year 7 to Year 12. They're free and online. State Library of Victoria has workshops online and on-site at a cost, and the State Library of Queensland offers 50-minute online workshops for students, and they're Year 10 to 12. So you can see we've got a range of grades across the different NSLA libraries represented, but we just want to spend a little bit longer thinking specifically about the State Library of Queensland and the work that they're doing relating to media and information literacy development. So this term they introduced what's known as media literacy multi-school workshops for students in Year 7 to 12. So these workshops are teaching students about media literacy, and is something that is open to everybody, regardless of what state that you come from. And so really its goal is to try and counter the proliferation of fake news that students are encountering in the day-to-day and how to find quality news sources. They have 2 more coming up this term that you may want to encourage students to go along to. So that's November 12 and November 25. And like I said, open to everyone, even those outside Queensland. And as well as this, in March, they're also hosting a symposium that will be both online for everyone, again, as well as on site up there. And that symposium is called Curriculum Connect Symposium, Building Critical Thinking Skills in the Age of Misinformation, Fake News and AI. So jump on their website to find more information about that. And the final example to talk about from State Library of Queensland is actually in the top left-hand corner of the screen. And that is something that's known as Virtual Veterans, which is an innovative venture that has been designed to breathe life into archival materials and treasures around World War I. So it's an application that can be accessed directly through their website. And it's using AI techniques and algorithms to guide students through the rich archival matter that's available in Queensland collections, in Trove, and also the Australian War Memorial. So students have access, first-hand access to personal letters and diaries from 1914 to 1918 and accounts from the Great War. So if we have a look at this example that's on screen there, you can see that I had a chat with Charlie earlier. And so that screen grab is part of my conversation. So I chose the topic to give him and he answered me from a soldier's perspective. And then underneath are more prompts for how I could continue that conversation. And this is the cool part. If you look to the left-hand side of the chat box, you'll see that there are actually 2 sources referenced. So there is an actual letter from August 1916, and you might need to zoom in a little bit, but you'll see that there's a newspaper article from 1917. And so Charlie is modelling to students where the information has come from and providing further information to get, further prompts, to get similar information. So it's so useful for students to understand how he's building a response and understanding where this reliable information has come from. And so actually on November 8th, so coming up soon, there's going to be a free 30-minute webinar on how to, be a workshop on how to use Charlie and Virtual Veterans. So I really do encourage you to find out a little bit more about what State Library of Queensland is doing in this space. So that is just a snapshot of some of the NSLA media and information literacy programs and online resources that are available. And now I'd like to move to our final example of this session, where we will consider the NSLA social media accounts and how they could be integrated into secondary settings. So as Karen mentioned earlier, NSLA libraries are trusted, credible spaces, and this extends into online spaces as well. And so from that, we can consider how social media plays a part in this online space. And so we'll consider how entering into these online cultural spaces of students allows us to engage in enriching educational experiences that is building media and information literacy where they're at. So engaging with social media is important. I know you know that. I'm sure I'm correct in assuming that a lot of us on this Zoom have social media accounts, probably from a range of different types of social medias. So you're very welcome to pop in the chat now the different social media accounts that you use, so you can get a snapshot of what's represented here. Social media is important for building relationships. Yes, absolutely. But what they also do is they are allowing students to engage with new information, engaging with civics and political life, and they're navigating a range of social and ethical issues. And a 2020 study, Australian study, found that 29% of youth turn to social media networks to consume their news. Yet what this study found was that students weren't checking the accuracy or authenticity outside of that social media post itself. Instead, they were relying on what was contained in the post to make judgments about the accuracy and authority and reliability. So this evidence does suggest to us that Students don't always question bias that's evident in posts, nor are they verifying how information is being presented or perhaps manipulated to support specific viewpoints. So really what that does is it highlights to all of us here on this call just how crucial our role is in educating students on how to evaluate reliability and validity of social media posts and the images that they are seeing. They have so much online content at their disposal that it actually can be quite overwhelming to discern truth. So we need to be able to teach students how to read social media effectively so that they're able to ask critical reflection questions and they can better understand how ideas are being represented in these online spaces. So if we have a look at some of the examples that are on the screen, on the left, you'll see that we've got a Facebook post up there. So all of these have been taken directly from our NSLA accounts. On this Facebook post, we've got National Library of New Zealand. You'll notice it's got the blue tick. On Facebook verification badge, the blue tick shows an account is authentic. Now, to get a tick at Facebook, there's a form that needs to be filled in. It requires identification. There are very strict eligibility requirements. It's a different story on X, formerly known as Twitter. There are different rules for the blue tick, and students themselves may not be aware of what that blue tick is. They just have assumptions about what it means if it's got a blue tick. Whereas on X, it just needs to be linked, I understand, to a mobile number rather than any proof of identity. So we can have discussions about what the blue tick means. Can it be trusted? Springboard that into conversations about how can we trust what we see online. And if we read that same Facebook post, we can see that it's got facts and information there, but specifically it contains links to reference material. The source has an image, there's a clear topic there. So we can use posts like this to model what it looks like to provide clear source provenance and really use that as discussions for even thinking about, does the image match what's being said? What are the dangers of using images that are disconnected from the topic being discussed as a way of building up their understanding of what they're consuming online? The second one to talk about, if we jump over to the Flickr account, which is an online image hosting service, there we see the State Library of New South Wales account. So it's got nearly 5,000 pictures and that's managed by the senior curator, Jeff Baker. It's dynamic and it's engaging. Every week there are new photos that are posted up there and there are different albums like the Australasian Antarctic Exposition or Australian Women in Sport. So often students need to provide images when they're doing assignments, and there's this idea that they'll just Google an image or bring up any image that comes from their search engine's image results. However, we know there's a proliferation of deepfake or AI-generated images, and it is becoming increasingly daunting to separate an authentic historical photograph with a manipulated image. So in a similar way to a digital catalogue, these Flickr accounts, which several NSLA libraries have, are a way in which students can access verified images that they can use in their assignments. Our third thing I want to flag out to you is YouTube. So many libraries across the network have different YouTube accounts. There's a variety of playlists and videos that are available from a range of different topics. And these videos are made up of archival material, collection material. They often feature curators or specialist staff or perhaps guest lectures on specialist topics. And so if we have a look at the screen here, we can see that screenshots from the National Library of Australia, there's all these different topics they can have a look at from 10 minutes to half an hour. There are so many videos circulating online. Just looking in the chat, all of these different accounts are featuring videos in some way. So it's helpful to bring students back to videos online that have verified authorship and where we can clearly see that we can trust the provenance of the material being discussed. And then finally, let's have a look at the social media post by State Library of Victoria. Nearly all of them have got social media accounts, so I really do encourage you to follow them. If you have a look there, we can see that we've got links back to the collection. Students are able to see if I'm consuming things online, that this is what it looks like to be transparent with the source of my information. So then we have our 4 different types of social media examples. And really through that, we can use social media accounts to model to students what does it look like to use social media well and to be transparent with our information sources. So lots of fantastic examples happening. That's just a snapshot of 3. I'll hand over now to Natasha.
Thanks, Jess. I feel like you've just started the platform or the foundation for our next workshop, how to navigate social media with all those great tips. And again, an example of why this network is so valuable and how we learn and adapt and adopt from each other. Such a great foundation moving into the last portion of today's webinar, which is the opportunity to address some questions that you've either got that have popped into your head as you've been participating today. We also, through the process of registration, there were many questions that were submitted. And so we pulled those together into some general discussion topics that we've shared with the panelists, and we'll just explore a few of those. We don't have time to address them all in this 1-hour session, but we will provide answers and links and supporting information to help you continue to explore and navigate this content. So the first question I thought we might look at, I feel that Jessica and Karen have really showcased some of the amazing ways that NSLA libraries are promoting media and information literacy for high school students. And we can see that there's lots of opportunity there to build, adapt, adopt. Karen, what strategies, you've shared things like information evaluation tools, considering the programs that are out there. Are there any other strategies that you came across in your preparation for today that libraries can adopt to support schools? I know yesterday we spoke about having a safe space and a welcoming space, and that's often the first step in engaging with our students that are coming to site. But anything else that you've come across that might help students as we try to share with them these great and exciting techniques?
Thanks, Natasha. Well, I think one of the good things would be for libraries to engage with the schools in their area, and if possible, they could collaborate and co-design some of the programs that align with the curriculum. I guess the thing is many libraries have got some great resources that they can create and curate into curriculum aligned resources that people could access. And I guess just promoting sort of opportunities for teacher PD or even public library PD in the different things.
That's a really great idea. We haven't really touched on professional development for teachers, but I know that is a space that the NSLA libraries do provide support for. So definitely check out the websites across the state and territory libraries to see what's on offer there. As I was reflecting on the discussion and we talk about all of that information out there, a question that came through was looking at ways and strategies that could be used to cultivate that idea of slowing down, building patience. You know, we live in this on-demand world where the first answer is usually the one we go to, even though it may not be the best. So what kind of strategies, this question came through, can be used to cultivate that patience and critical thinking when we do have so much on demand? And I thought I might throw that out to Kylie and see if she has some reflections through her research she might be able to share with us.
Thanks for the question, Natasha. Look, one of the things that we discovered in doing this research was that that children don't think of their lives as online and offline, and they're really blended. So having some way to sit an engagement with a media resource within a broader play-based or investigative situation. I know there's some really great work done in early childhood, taking children out to look into the real world with an iPad and investigating plants and things like that. So actually so that the children see that resource not just as the thing that is going to give them the immediate answer, but as part of a whole suite of investigative kind of approaches. And I'm sure I don't need to tell librarians or teachers that, but it is a really useful way to kind of shift them away from wanting that, I'll just get the answer from Google, I'll just get the answer from YouTube, but actually say, look, are there 3 different types of ways you can engage with the world, including that particular technological resource that will give you the answer? So that way it is actually how they engage in the world. They will often kind of be, if anyone's ever seen anyone trying to learn to cook, a child learn to cook, they'll have YouTube running while they're, cooking. So just broaden what way you're trying to ask them to retrieve the answer from. On top of that, I've popped a number of links in the Q&A because there are actually some amazing resources out there for teachers. So I know the resources are incredible sitting within the libraries, but there's also some kind of lesson plans and things like that you can go to. So there's some links I've popped in there in the Q&A if you want to investigate any of those.
Thanks, Kylie. Jessica or Karen, did you have any thoughts that you might want to add to that?
I think it's such a valid point that, and just so true that younger people don't tend to see online and offline. It's just an integrated part. So it might be interesting just off the back of thinking about social media. Does your branch or your team, do they have a social media account? And what would it look like to flip it? Students are so used to consuming information quickly. If you were to say, we're doing a post on this, and having them be involved, bringing their knowledge about certain things. That's not saying post exactly what they do. Obviously, there needs to be checks there. But what would it look like to encourage students to think more critically about what they post, because they're thinking about the audience, they're thinking about the content. So it's having that space to sit where they are and just expand it and just think about content and audience in a different way.
Thanks, Jess. Karen, any thoughts?
Sorry. No, I haven't really got anything, any thoughts on that, but it was interesting, Kylie's remark about the how young people don't see the difference, and probably in the generation I'm in, I certainly do notice the difference. It was funny the other week outside the library, I saw. I think it was a parent or a carer with a young person, and the child was acting out this role play that the parent or carer was Google. And so they asked the parent a question and said, "Hi, hey, Google." And the parent was answering the questions about, okay, you turn left here. Okay, now you turn right. Anyway, I just thought it was really funny, the mesh between the two, real life and the digital.
Yeah, that's a take home I've definitely picked up, and that Kylie has helped to amplify through these webinars is that reality of this blended world where those of us who've grown up and transitioned into the world of technology and on-demand information, we sort of have those natural inhibitors built into us because we went through that process of physically having to go find stuff, and then all of a sudden we've got this information at our fingertips. That was great, but we've learned how to navigate that. But we've got these children who are in a world where that's always been a thing. And so I think the tips that have been shared and going back again to that 4A's framework and considering those A's for slowing ourselves down, those information evaluative tools are all designed to slow that practice down of evaluating information, and then looking for other ways to verify, what we're looking at, considering other perspectives. Um, Look, today's session has just gone so quickly, and we've got 5 minutes left, so we won't be able to get to the rest of the questions. There was a few around the topic of AI, and Jessica, thanks for giving State Library of Queensland a shout out. I would encourage you to jump on that virtual veterans workshop if you can, because Troy will do a great job explaining how he came to be, and also that opportunity to engage in a closed system, and to have that experience. But there's lots of things going on there that we will provide answers back to. In the chat, we've had some questions about, the future role of a digital media literacy expert in teams across the NSLA libraries. I tell you what, I'd love to have one. And I'm sure the rest of my colleagues would. And so, who knows? Roles grow and appear. So keep an eye on the work job boards. You never know what might pop up in the future. And the rest of the questions in that chat will include into our newsletter that goes out. So, sort of as we wrap up today's session, thanks to all of our panelists and for the work gone into pulling this information together. This does conclude our symposium that we've been hosting over the last 3 days. And it's been really exciting to see the different work that's being done across all ages and the commitment to building media and information literacies in children, young people, families, teachers, and beyond. And a good reminder that it's one aspect, as Kylie has reminded us, of digital citizenship. So you may come across this pathway through hearing more about digital citizenship, those discussions happening in your spaces, and knowing that building these literacies are part of that process. Before we sign off, if you'd like to throw into the chat one word you'd use to describe today's session, or a key takeaway you'd like to explore further, or an idea you've been inspired to try, we'd love you to do that now. I think Abby's got a slide for me that you'll be able to use as a prompt. And as I do all my other thank yous, you can add to the chat your reflections on today. If you have any other questions, please add them to the Q&A, and we'll do our best to address those in our newsletter when we finish pulling it all together. I'd also invite you to consider how you might apply one of the 4A's, considering attitudes, ability, awareness, or access. One thing that Kylie did mention in other sessions is just to check your own attitude towards the use of digital technologies, and how we model that to the young people in our lives. And to again thank everyone who's been involved. We will share the recordings in the newsletters. Encourage you to pass that information on to your colleagues and friends to broaden the message, and continue to look to the NSLA libraries, to your representative. That information will be shared with you also to reach out, considering opportunities where there could be the capacity to work together for something more local. And we hope that these 3 days have helped to inspire you and to empower the young people, children, and families in your life, to grow them into critical thinkers, and eventually critical thinking citizens who will be ready to tackle this truth decay and contribute to an inclusive, democratic society. Together, we can help shape a utopian future filled with possibilities and opportunities. I read many a book as a high school teacher that was the alternative, a bleak dystopia limited by misinformation, ignorance, and polarized views. It's exciting to be in roles where we can impact and influence the change that we hope for. So, on that, thanks for your participation today, and we hope you enjoy the information that follows. And I'll sign off with that.